Great. Thank you so much, Talkcat. Hey, greetings, friends. Welcome to the Smart Hobbies portion of the live stream. I want to thank Talkcat, the other members of the Sudoku Con team, for this opportunity to collaborate with other great setters, solvers, and Sudoku enthusiasts. Besides Smart Hobbies, there's some other sponsors here. I'd love to give them a shout out. I've worked with many of them. Demono, Artisanal Sudoku, James Sinclair, Fit for Puzzle, Grandmaster Puzzles there with Thomas, and the Periodic Puzzle Project, Rock Rat Zero. Awesome. All right, checking out the chat. See a couple of people there. Thanks, Rock Rat. Welcome to you as well. I've picked out a few puzzles I thought we could solve together. I'm also going to give some shout outs. I have a website, smarthobbies.com, and I have a membership through that. I do monthly puzzle packs. I get a lot of people here through Sudoku Con to do handmade classics to put in those packs. And then when people solve them, I give them shout outs also for new members. And sometimes, people also give money to support the channel. And I'll do some other shout outs, supports throughout the stream. And of course, for the chat, you guys have been great. So thanks for being so respectful. Thanks for asking great questions. And, if you see me getting a little stuck, you want to throw something in there hint wise, go for it. I'll do my best to respond as we go along, and I'll try to read it out for everybody. All right. For my first puzzle, let me restart this timer here. You should see round 3, puzzle 5 of the Sudoku Grand Prix. I'm going to solve this without any marks. Croatia, they hosted this round 3 of the Sudoku Grand Prix. The puzzle author, Sinisa Herga. And again, by doing this without marks, just kind of show you, in classics, if you have a relative idea of how hard the puzzle is, you can always try solving without marks, work on your working memory and short-term memory, and also you can save yourself from having to remove all the marks. And you don't need to be scared of puzzles from the Grand Prix. A lot of them are actually pretty approachable. They just get a little bit harder near the end to kind of distinguish those who are going for the top prizes. So, got the puzzle link. I think Talkcat will give it to you if you don't have it. And with that, it's solving time. All right, so you can kind of notice here with the ones, only place for a 1 in block 2 is right there. And then you can see I got 2 places for a 1 there and 3 here. Don't see any easy marks with the ones. I normally go from digits 1 through 9 in order. That way I can kind of remember what I've looked at when I haven't looked at. And if I see something of interest, continue solving that way. All right. See, there's not much with the 2s other than you got like a claiming pair of 2s right there. With the 3s, I don't get any solves there. And then go on to the 4s. All right, should get some solves. You kind of notice anytime you have 4 of a digit going into a block, you can solve it for sure. And then with this 4 and the 2 4s, rows 1 and 3, you got 4s right there. And I believe we got all of the 4s. Okay. 5s, 1 5 here in block 9. Also notice you got a 5 up here in block 4. And then there's a nice little pointing pair. So see how the 5 comes up here. 5's got to be in one of these spots. I'll do the coloring just to kind of show you what I'm looking at. And so since the 5 has to be here, you can eliminate from any other spot in that row. And so then we go with these 2 5s. You can solve this cell for 5 right there. So those nice little pointing pairs are helpful in making those kinds of solves. Anything else with the 5s? Yep, looks like you can solve the 5 in block 2 and then finish up that 5 in block 5. Okay, so I see a lot of restriction already going on here in block 5. And so you can see here, just kind of be curious about it, 2, 3, and a 9. With the 9, you end up kind of with the pointing pair of 9s right there. And then with the 3s, 2 3s here. So don't see that I can solve this block just yet, but we'll continue on. Okay, with the 6s, you'll see another pointing pair with this 6 and the 6 in column 9. 6 has to be in one of these spots. To go with that 6, you can solve for 6 in block 6, and then look at the impact row, column, and block. 2 6s there, 2 spots for 6 here and 2 here, so can't make any marks with the 6s. Move on to the 7s. You can see right away you can solve this for a 7. And so you create a full house. It's always worth solving these full houses. So you have 8 of 9 cells filled out, which means you can guaranteed, you just count through the digits, 1, missing a 2, that you're going to be able to solve that last cell pretty easily. And then again, looking at the impact here, now you only have 3 digits remaining in block 4. Just need, looks like a 1, 8, and a 9. I got the 1 and 9 right there. So that's got to be your 8. And now you can see with these 8s and this 8, you can solve for an 8 right there. And then with this one, you're going to be able to resolve a lot of what's going on in the middle here, right? Because that's going to be a 1, that's going to be a 2. And then with these 2s, 2, you remember this is a 3, 9, using that working memory. There's your 9, there's your 3. I remember there was a 1 and 9 here. So with this 1, there's your 1, there's your 9. See how that works? And then I'm going to follow, once you make a solve, just kind of follow it to the next block, up or down with these 9s. You can tell that you can put a 9 right there in block 7. 2 digits remaining. As far as restrictions go, I like to go with most restricted to least restricted. So if you only have 2 cells remaining, you know this is worth a look, right? You got a 1, 2, 4, 5, 6, 8, 9. You just need a 3 and a 7. So just pull over from the row. You know, that's got to be a 3, that's got to be a 7. And then look at the impact there with these 7s. Solve for 7 in block 9. And then you can look here in column 2. Just need, looks like a 7 and an 8. So I know that's got to be a 7 and an 8. And so this is going to have to be a 2 or a 3. So I look over to the rows. Don't see any of those yet, but we can come back to that. I think we were going to get some solves here in column 4, right? Because you had that 7. I don't see a 7 in column 4. So that's got to be your 7. And it looks like that's going to be your 2. Then follow these 2s here. Solve this for a 2. Follow these 2s. That's got to be a 2 there. And now you can solve the 2 and the 3 right there. Remember? Hopefully, also calling it out as you do it, you know, like me saying it, it helps them remember it a little bit easier, and it can help you as well. You might sound a little crazy talking to yourself while you're solving, but trust me, you'll go a little bit quicker. Okay, so you got a lot of 2 and 3 cell remaining. So these are the things you want to look at to kind of finish. Start with the full house, because this is a guarantee solve, right? Just count up 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Boom, that's got to be a 9. Means this has got to be a 1, and then go to these other restrictions. 7 and 8 there. Just pull the 8 over from the row. There's your 8. There's your 7. With these 2 8s now, that's got to be an 8. That's got to be your 7 right there. With these 7s, go to the cross hatching, get that 7 knocked out. 2 cells here, so you're looking at, looks like a 3 and a 6. And so, it's funny that the 3 and 6 don't solve easily. But if we go here, looks like you need a 6 and a 9. Just pull the 9 over. There's your 9. There's your 6. Remember I said 3 and a 6. This is the 6 there. So there's your 3. 6, 3. These 3s mean this has to be a 3. The 6. There is your 6. That's going to be your 9. Okay, we should have 4 cells remaining. Easier to look in the block than it is across the rows. So you see 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 9. You need a 1 and 8. I'm just going to pull one of those over. So there's the 8. There's the 1. Don't see a 1 in block 8. So there's your 1. And the last cell is a 6. Okay, so there you go. Competition puzzle, no marks, 7 minutes, not a big deal. All right, and so I am ready for the next puzzle. I believe I say that, and then my wonderful Tall Cat helps me out with it. Awesome. Okay. So as we get ready for the next puzzle, checking the chat out. I see Dream Librarian says showing non-pencil marking technique. Been working on that lately. Awesome. Glad to hear that. Keep it up. Tall Cat. Yep. Something with different senses reinforces it better. Awesome. Yeah. I'll tell you what. I'm reading this great book about Alzheimer's. I'm relating. They talk about solving Sudoku helps prevent dementia. I'm actually going to use that angle in my channel and with my course coming up. And it's not just solving the puzzles, it's adding different dimensions. So if you talk about the puzzle socially and it imprints in your memory the type of puzzle you solve, that actually is going to keep your brain even stronger. It's going to, it works on those reserves in the neurons, and it stores that in your memory in multiple places. It's really fascinating stuff. And so thank you there for those kind of marks. And yep, Malrog felt like walking without a crutch. Scary, but you did it. Good job. Okay, we got the next puzzle up. And I'm going to give a few shout outs here before I get going here. So we wouldn't have I call it the internet's best Sudoku community, really, right here. We're all part of this big Sudoku community together online. I love it. I got people that support the channel. I think I invited them to come join the chat. Hopefully they're in there. And just want to thank everyone who bought coffee, super thanks, or gave tips and buying me a coffee. These folks, Pekka Varista bought me a coffee, Kenneth Miller, David Hall, Lydia Mabry, Alan Miles Bowler, and JS Fox MD. And yeah, if you want to support another great organization, you can place a bid for that 2025 SudokuCon puzzle quilt. I've seen it pop up in the chat, and I checked it out, and it's very impressive. Just, look for the pinned comment, or you can put the exclamation point bid in the chat. Okay. So enough of me chatting. Let's go to puzzle 2. This is from Enthralling Sudoku Volume 2. It's classic number 38 by Ashish Kumar. So Ashish from India. He also has the Unshackling Sudoku and Puzzles YouTube channel. He's made a couple of books, Enthralling Sudoku Volume 1 and 2. Amazing setter, sets puzzles for the Sudoku Grand Prix World Championships all the time. This book is excellent. I worked all the way through it. I'd recommend it to you if you want to improve your skills, because Ashish and then someone I'm going to feature later on, Akash Dulani, they like to put in those techniques to help you find them so you can learn to solve them on future puzzles. And this is not going to be any different. I'll solve this using my 5-step solving method for solving classic Sudokus. And I'll just kind of call it out as I go. There's no real mystery to how to do it. It's just kind of working your way from easier to harder restrictions as you go. You can look for the link in the chat. And with that, it's solving time. Okay, so the first step of the method is to look for digit restrictions 1 through 9. And so you click on the ones, you look for any possibilities you can solve for 1 using cross-hatching, or if you have 2 possibilities for that candidate in a block, 3x3 block, you want to mark that. All right, nothing with the 1s. Look at the 2s. I don't see any marks you can make with the 2s. We go on to the 3s, and we have a little bit we can do with the 3s here. 2 places for a 3 in block 5, and 3 places there, 3 places in block 4, and 3 places up in block 3, 3 places in block 9. Don't want to mark 3 spots. You normally refrain from that in classic Sudoku. Let's move on to the 4s. And the reason why is with this technique that speed solvers use, it's similar to what Thomas uses, is once you solve one of these cells for something else, you can solve the other one right away. If you put 3 in there, you might accidentally solve by mistake. Now, in variants, I do recommend that to help keep track of things, because everything's not neat and orderly in 3x3 blocks. But in classics, I try to keep the grid a little bit decluttered. Okay, nothing with the 4s. All right, with the 5s, we can make a solve, right, with these 5s. Got a 5 right there. These 5s and this 5, you can solve for a 5 in block 1, and just kind of follow the 5s around. There in block 3, 2 places for a 5 in block 9, and with these 5s, 2 places there in block 8. Nice solves there. 6s, all right, 3 places in block 7, 3 places in block 5, and I don't see anything else I can do with the 6s just yet. 7s. All right, we got 2 places for a 7 here in block 5. Anything else with the 7s? Nope, nothing yet. 8s. 2 places for an 8 in block 6, and nothing else I can see with the 8s. And then with the 9s, we can solve for a 9 in block 6. And then with these 2 9s, you see there's 3 9s there. You could mark those if you want. I'm not going to mark them like I explained, But we do have a pointing pair here with this 9 cutting across the row and this one coming up. 9's restricted to column 2 and block 1. So they can't be anywhere else in the column outside the block. So you see there's also 3 9s available right there. All right, keep an eye on that. And so that's kind of the first step of the method. Second step of the method is if you made a few solves, go back through and see if there's anything else you might have missed. In particular, the reason I do digit restrictions 1 through 9 is ordinal solving. You know if you're at the 5s that you've done the 1 through 4s, and you still got 6, 7, 8, and 9. In this case, since you solve 5s, there might be something missed with the 1s, 2s, 3s, and 4s. And so you can kind of see, did we create more restriction with the 1s, the 2s? And yes, we did. So now you can see with this 2 and this 2 coming up, you got a pointing pair of 2s in block 3, restricts the 2s here in block 2. And anything else with the 2s? Nope. Okay. Well, yeah, there's something here. All right. You notice how the 2 comes down column 2 and the 2 comes up column 8? Not a big deal unless you're focused here on row 6. What I've noticed is that the 2s are restricted to rows 4 and 5 there in blocks 4 and 6. And so since a 2 can't be in these cells or these cells, some people call it double row exclusion. Basically, 2's got to be in one of these 3 cells in row 6, right? And so it's going to be a claiming pair since there's 2 possibilities there in row 5. So now you can eliminate the possibility for 2 in these cells. Claiming pair is a little hard to see because you're switching from the cross-hatching method to kind of like focusing on a row or a column individually. All right, so that was something there with the 2s. Anything else with the 3s? Yep, you can now mark 3s here in block 1. And that's all I see with the 3s. And then with the 4s. If we're not making any more marks, we'll go on to the next step. All right, so these 2 4s, you can mark 4s right there. And then that seems to be it with the 4s. Okay, and so we already solve for 5s and the other digits, right? Haven't made any more solves. And so now that's the first step. Second step, we went through 1 through 9 again. Try to get those easy solves because it just lays the foundation and for you doing the harder method. So the third step, pretty simple. You want to look for pairs and triples. So you're just kind of ratcheting things up. Instead of hidden naked singles, now you want to look at pairs and triples. Best place to look for these are what are called the heavy houses. So any row, column, or block that has at least 5 cells filled out. All right. And so like one heavy house I look at is row 6. And really your eyes will gravitate to the heavy houses, I call them, because that's where the greatest restriction is, right? You have the most things filled out. So if we look right here in row 6, you got a 3, 5, 6, 8, 9, you need a 1, 2, 4, and a 7. So you might notice is this is going to be a 1, a 4. That can be a 1, 2, 4. That can be everything, it looks like. And this can be because you got the 2 and the 4 in the column and row, 1 and 7. Okay, so filled that out. Not really seeing much yet. What else can you look at? Are there any other heavy houses? So I see there's 3 here. There's 4 in block 4. So you can see this is a little tricky. Only 4 here in block 6. So there's no other houses that have at least 5 or more digits filled out. We do have some interesting restrictions going on. You might notice the 2s, the 3s, the 7s all can't be in this cell. So that's going to be a little bit of interest there, right? Because what's that cell going to be now? Because there's additional restriction here. It could be a 1. It can't be a 2 because of the claiming pair of 2s. It can't be a 3. It could be a 4. It can't be a 5. It could be a 6, but it can't be a 7, 8, or a 9. All right. And so kind of now you're switching here to looking for intersections. And so now you want to look for almost heavy houses, so ones that might have a pointing pair, like column 2 here. So you got this pointing pair of 9s, adds additional restriction along this column into these cells. And so you might see here is you got this 2, 5, 7, 1, 3, 6, And so you just need 4, 8, and a 9, but you know that the 9s were a pointing pair, so that's actually going to be a 4 and 8. And so this gets a little tricky here as you look through these intersections. Something else you could look at, this one's got 4 filled out, so 1, 4, 5, 9, so you need 2, 3, 6, 7, 8. You got the 2 and the 7 right there. 3, 6, 8. And it's like, wow, Timberlake, not really getting much anywhere. Is it time to look for advanced strategies? Might be here in just a little bit, but I don't want to go to that just yet. I want to look for a couple more of these intersections. Okay, how about this right here? We talked about restrictions in column 2. What do you got in this cell? Looks like it could be a 1 or a 3. It can't be 4, 5, 6, 7. It could be an 8. And you're seeing not really linking a lot of these up, right? You get happy when you see a buy value cell like this. But if you can't match it to another pair, it doesn't really do you much good. Any other 2, 3, 6, 7, 8. All right, 2s can't be here. 2 can't be there. So you got 2s in those 2 cells. Anything else causing restriction? Nope, don't see anything there. You can look across here. 3, 4, 5, 8. So 1, 2, 6, 7, 9. And now I'm just kind of scanning across here. I think I noticed, there's a little bit of restriction going on. Okay. I want to dig into this a little bit. 1, 2, 6, 7, 9. This can't be a 2 or 9. This can't be a 7 or 9. This can't be a 6. This can't be a 9. I notice there's quite a bit of restriction of 9s in this row. And this can't be a 2 or a 7. So you look across there, you go, there's not much in that. We do know what this 2 in the block. So that's a 1, 6, 7. Also notice you got a 1, 6, 7 here and a 1, 7 there. No other restriction with the 8s. Okay. What are in these cells? You got 3, 4, 5, 9 with the 8, 7 there. This cell looks like it could be 1 or 2, but it can't be a 3, 4, 5. Okay, it can be a 6, 7, 8, 9. All right, so you see it's a little tricky. And then the other things to look at, if we finish this block, 2, 3, 5, 7. Remember, it can't be 9 because the pointing pair of 9s. 2, 3, 5, 7. So you got 1, 4, 6, and an 8. Okay, so there's not much there. And so you can see, hey, we've gotten kind of in the tricky phase of stuff. Yep. And so then 4, 5, 6, 7, 9. So 1, 2, 3, 8. So you want to look at, as you're going, is there another pair that we can solve here? All right. Because then the next step would be to look for single candidate strategy. So step 4 is to look for either advanced strategies using single candidates or buy value cells. All right. Looking in the chat here, and it seems there's might be something here in column 4. Okay. So here, I'll just kind of go and kind of show you what I'm looking at. With the 1s, way too much, not any restrictions there with the 1s. But if you look at the 2s, where can the 2s be? Right there. Right there. Oops. Right here, right here. Right here, and right there. Which you might notice, okay, there we go. Yeah, so of interest here, right? Some people call it the mini X-wing. So you can see that 2's got to be here and here, here and here, in columns 5 and 6. So 2's can't be there, they can't be there. You can eliminate 2's from these cells right here. So some people say mini X-wing, you can also say double column exclusion. Guess where it puts the 2's? Right there. So that's a nice 2-5 hidden pair, right? The 2's and 5's the only 2 candidates that can be there. Nice, nice. That was tricky. But you can see that sometimes by looking by the individual candidates. And so then what does that do for the puzzle now? By putting the 2-5 here, you now have added more restriction in the column and in this block. And so now what does that do? It also, so in the column now you got 2, 3, 5, 8. So you need a 1, 4, 6, 7, 9. So that'd be a 1, 4, 9. 1, 6, 7. 1, 4, 6, 7, and 9 there. Okay. What does it do here in this block? You got 2, 5, 6, 7. You need a 1, 3, 4, 8, 9. 1, 3, 4, 9, 4, 8. All right. Hopefully you see this. Naked pair 4, 8. That's very interesting, right? Because now you just added more restriction, whoops, in row 8. And so now that is a heavy house, right? Because it's got 5 digits accounted for. The 1, 3, 4, 6, 8. So now you have a 2, 5, 7, 9. So that's going to be a 2, 7, 9 right there. 2, 5, 7, 9. 2, 5, 9. You can solve that for 7. And that's huge. Okay, you made another digit solve here. So what's the impact of that? Well, this 7, look at the impact, row, column, and block. This has got to be a 1 now. Well, that's got to be a 4. And you can get rid of the 1's and 4's there. Well, that's going to be a 2, that's going to be a 7. This 4 means that's going to be the 8, that's going to be the 4. All right, so making some progress here, looking for pairs and triples. Went and looked for single candidate strategies, found that nice claiming pair turned into a hidden pair. Beautiful stuff. So now continue the solving. This is actually part 5 of the solving method. Part 5 is to hunt down the marks. So you hunt down the marks and you can see how much more solves you can make. All right. So of interest, and you basically revert back to 1, 2, and 3 of going back and making the marks as you get these solves in. So 2, 5, 9 here, that's got to be a 5, 9. And this can't be a 4. And so you'll see how you're going to just start removing these marks as you make more progress in the puzzle. Okay, with these ones, this has to be a 1 right here. And you might see with this 1 and 7, that's got to be a 6 now. All right, get rid of these 6's. And with this 2, that's the 1, displaces that 2. That's got to be your 7, that's got to be your 9. And you want to remove the marks, kind of get nice and clean as you do it. All right, 1, 3, 6 there. Looking good. And what else can we do? See the 2's there. All right, what's up? So what we got here in column 5 now. 1, 2, 4, 5, 7, 9. Need a 3, 6, 8. That's 3, 8. Looks like that's going to be a 3, 6. And that's going to be a 6, 8. Okay, nothing there. Really. Get rid of these 1's because the 1's are already in there. You got 1, 3, 6, 8 up there. That doesn't really help. Okay. So just kind of revert back and find more heavy houses. So 3, 4, and an 8 here. It's like that's a 3, 8. That's going to be a 3, 4, and 3, 4, 8 there. All right. I think there's some cleanup we can do here. So now 1, 3, 4, 6. 1, 3, 4. This is now 2, 6. 2, 3, 6, 8. All right, so you can see here you got like a nice 1, 3, 6 naked triple there with the marking. So you know this can't be a 3 anymore because the 1, 3, 6 have to be in these 3 cells. So there's your 8. Just place that 8. And then with these 2 8s, you can mark 8 right there. All right, also know since this is 1, 3, 6, 6 are restricted to these 2 cells, so that can't be a 6. And it leaves you with, looks like 2 and a 7 there. Well, with these 7s, you can solve that for 7, and that's going to be the 2. And your goal is to get rid of the marks and get rid of the clutter. As you can tell, with the makes it easier to find that next solve. Like I feel like these 7s were probably here for a while. All right, so then with these 2s and this 2, solve for 2 right there. I'll remove the nice naked triple. And continue on with the solves here. So this has got to be, looks like, that's 2, 6. 1, 3, 8. That's a nice 1, 8. These are the 3s. All right. 7s are restricted there. Nice. Okay. And what's remaining in this block? You got a 2, 3, 5, 8, 9. You need a 1, 4, 6, and 7. So get out of color mode. There's going to be your 7, 4, and a 6 right there. So that's got to be your 1. There's your 6. There's your 4. There's your 9. All right. And we'll continue on with the solving. What else we got here? Looks like with all these 1s, solve for a 1 right there. Gives you a 3, 8. Okay. And part of the 3, 6, 8. So you got the 3 and the 8 right there. So that's got to be your 6. And remove the 5 from right there. Disambiguate the 2, 6 here. And you see now, continue on making the marks and the solves here. All right. And so what else we got? With this 6, that can't be a 6 anymore. So you have a 1, 3 right there. 3 and the 8. Okay. What's in block 9? 1, 2, 5, 6, 7, 3, 4, 8, 9. 3 and the 8 means that's going to be a 4, 9. 4, 9 means that's going to be 3 and the 8. And this will kind of disambiguate some of this stuff, right? Because the 3, 8 pair there, depends on how you see it. That's going to be your 4, that's going to be your 9. Looking good there. And then with this 9 and this 9, solve for a 9 right here. And with this 1, you can remove the 1 right there. So it looks like you got the 4, 8 right here. Okay, and we got this 4. So now you got a full house in column 8. So there's 3. There's your 1 displacing that 3. It's a 3 there. So that's got to be your 3. With this 1, there's your 1. There's going to be your 8. And with this 3, you can just kind of scan across and go, hey, yep, there's a 3, there's a 6, there's a 1, there's a 4. All right, and so those can't be 4s. You know that's got to be the 4. With this 3, 8, 3, 8, 3, Get rid of the 4. Get rid of that 9. The 6. That's an 8. That's a 6, 7. What's this pair going to be? Looks like another 6 and 8. So just use the 8s, right? So there's the 8. There's a 6. There's a 6. There's a 7. And with these 7s, it's got to be a 7 right there. With this 1, that's got to be your 1. With this 2, there's your 2. And the last digit is a 4. All right. Yeah, good one there. It's kind of hard to find that 2, 5 right there. You saw that kind of stumped me there, and then kind of ended up to some other solves. Thanks for the help in the chat. I thought you guys might appreciate that puzzle. A lot of the ones in Enthralling Sudoku are like that, where it's not a hard strategy, but it does improve you got to improve your scan if you want to find those things. All right. Make sure for our second round of shout outs, I got to welcome some new Smarty Party members. So like every month, people get these puzzle packs. I recently moved the membership platform over to Smart Hobbies website. And so you can just go to smarthobbies.com and check out what I have to offer there. You can get a free solving guide. You can do memberships. You also have a couple courses I'm lining up. I'm actually doing something with Thomas. I won't say too much about it until it's out there. But I do want to welcome my first new member to that site. The new Smarty Mario members are Mari, Russell Eels, Susan Arendis, and Sally Conrad. Welcome. Thank you so much. Okay, I am ready for puzzle 3. If Tallcat wants to put puzzle 3 up for me. Awesome. All right, so the third puzzle, we're going to get a little bit harder here. We're going to go fully into the 5-step method. This is Devilry by Sam Kaplan-Lines from the Sudoku Gospel. If you haven't worked on the Sudoku Gospel or Sudoku Dark Arts, you're in for a treat. You got to try these puzzles. Not only do they involve advanced strategies, but advanced skills that they're trying to teach you to find and solve. Very interesting stuff. A lot of times there's follow-on commentary like in the Sudoku Players Forum. And so it was Sam and Jovial, I believe, Shai, and Philip Newman put this together. I featured Sam several times on Smart Hobbies. You've seen him in Cracking the Cryptic, other channels. He's done a puzzle pack for me. I did one theme on Pirates of the Caribbean. It had X-Wings, like X marks the spot for the treasure. Great stuff. So I'll solve this classic using the 5-step solving method. The hint is this was in chapter 1, was called Learning to Fly. And so if you know anything about flying and Sudoku strategies, that might help you with this one. Make sure you get the link if you want to solve it yourself. And with that, it's solving time. Okay, so the first step, again, look for digit restrictions 1 to 9. You'll notice 2 places for 1 in block 8. And you got a pointing pair of 1s in block 3. Restricts the 1s in block 1. Anything else with the 1s? Nope, go to the 2s. And remember, it's called Devilry. This is remember, right, it's got a pretty interesting trick here. All right, nothing with the 2s, 3s. 3 spots there, 2 spots in block 9. Mark the 3s. Go to the 4s. Got 2 spots in block 4, 2 spots in block 2. Anything else with the 4s? Yep, 2 spots down here in block 9. All right, move on to the 5s. And you can see 3 spots here. No places or just 2 possibilities for the 5s or any solves. The 6s, 3 spots here, 3 spots in block 6. Can't make marks there. 7s, restricted in block 5. And that's all I see with the 7s. All right, move on to the 8s. All right, these 2 8s, 2 spots for an 8 right there. A lot of restriction going on block 9. I feel like that's a little bit of a clue that Sam's given us. And nothing else I see with the 8s. And then the 9s. Okay, we actually have something going on here with 9s. Nice. So 9s there. Now I'll come back to this later. I want to make sure I get the marks. Don't miss something easy. Okay. So of interest here, again, if you look across row 7, 9 can't be in these 3 cells, and they can't be here because of the marks and that there's 2 9s there. So you have a clean pair of 9s in block 8. So that's worth marking as well. All right, and that's it. And so another thing of interest, if you make all these kind of marks here, you know this cell ends up being pretty restricted, right? Because it can't be a 3, 4, 8, or 9. It can't be a 1, 2, or a 6. So that leaves you with just, I think, a 5 or a 7, right? 1, 2, can't be 3, can't be 4, 5, it could be a 5, can't be a 6, could be a 7, 8, or 9. So it's a nice bivalve cell intersection that you may not notice looking at the row, column, and block, but you do when you see these kind of marks. Look for the cell that's empty, and you'll notice now if you can just figure out what one of these are, you can solve the rest of it pretty easily. And so remember what I said about heavy houses? That was step 1. Step 2 is go back to if you made solves. We didn't make any solves. So now you're on to step 3, looking for pairs and triples. The way to do this, puzzle like this, I talk about looking for heavy houses, but you'll notice there's not really any that have 5 or more cells filled out. So now you gotta look for intersections. So in this case, it's like this is an intersection. It has 3 digits in the column, 3 in the row, 3 in the block. Of course, there's a couple of shared ones here. Another one that's of interest might be up here in the corner. You have a 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 8. And so this is now bivalve cell 7, 9. Okay, and so that's kind of piquing my interest. And a lot of setters, they do like to put good strategies here in the corners. And now I look and see a 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. And hopefully you're noticing how like this is drawing you in. These are kind of pointing to this cell and go, where can this cell be? Well, it can be a 7 or an 8. It can't be a 9 because there's a 9 right there. And now you got a 7, 9 here. You got a 7, 8 right there. And so the only thing you can really look at is what's going on here in these columns and rows. So naturally, you got to look at this one. What's going to be here, right? 2, 3, 7, 5, 6, 8. So, and you got a 4 right there. So it could be a 1. It can't be a 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. So that can be a 9. Okay. 1, 9, 7, 9, 7, 8. Let's go here. We talked about block 9. Talked about how with the marks, it seems like, I call it foreshadowing, but basically setter's intent. When a setter wants you to look at a particular block, I feel like there's some magic going on in this cell right here. What can it be? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Can be an 8 or 9. Okay. Now, that was the third step. Fourth step is look for advanced strategies. You can look for single candidate strategies or bivalve cell strategies. I think if you focus on these 4 cells, you probably see what I see. Right here, that's a 7 or an 8, right? It also sees that cell, which is 7 or 9. So it shares one of the candidates and has an additional candidate. It also sees this cell, 8 or 9. So it shares the 8, but it has an additional candidate. What you notice is you have all 3 paired possibilities of the digits 7, 8, or 9. And one of them, this pivot, sees the 2 wings. This is an XY wing, right? Easy way to see the logic. This is a 7. Then this has to be a 9. If this is an 8, that has to be a 9. So no matter the value of the orange cell, one of the blue cells has to be a 9. You can eliminate a 9 from any cell that sees both. What cell sees both? This one right here. Guess what? That can't be a 9, right? If you go backwards and you put a 9 right here, you'd end up with a 7 here, 8 there, and nothing to put in that cell. Hopefully you see that logic. So you can remove the 9. Beautiful stuff. Wing, flying. I think this is the intended strategy. Saw that for a 1. And now, like all great setters, you should get a reward if you find the intended strategy. Because of this 1, what does that do to our puzzle? Well, displaces the 1 there. You saw that for 1, displacing that 9. Looking good. Okay, now what? Well, with these 9s and this 9, saw that for 9, displacing the 4. It's nice how the marks just kind of work out here as we are making some more of these solves. Okay, well, with this 9 now, you can disambiguate the 7 there. That's got to be the 8. That's got to be the 9. Displaces the 8. Displaces the 4. You end up with 3, 5, 7. Okay. So That's a 3, 7. This is going to be pointing pair of fives, right? And I'll just mark this since it's all right there. Okay, so we made some marks there. And again, look at what does that do for a puzzle. With these fours, now you can put a 4 right there and mark the 4s. Again, as you find new restriction, continue to mark those. Okay, where do you want to go next? Row 9. 1, 2, 3, 4, 7, 8, 9. Need a 5 and a 6. Nice little pair. Just got to solve one of those, and the other should solve pretty quickly. Across here, looks like you need a 2, 3, 5, 7. That's not really where we need to go here. How about up here? 1, 2, 3, 4, 7, 8, 9. Well, that's also 5 or 6. And so it's kind of neat here. You know, you got a nice 5, 6 naked pair right there. And so that's going to put restriction on these cells. Keep that in mind. Okay. In particular, this can't be a 5 anymore. Remember I said 2, 3, 5, 7. So now that's just going to be a 2 or a 7. And I'll just mark this 2, 3, 5. Okay. What else? 2, 3, 5, 6. Okay, this 3. 3s are now a pointing pair. 3s can go there. So you kind of revert back to steps 1, 2, and 3, right? Going through digit restrictions 1 through 9, going back through, and you just kind of repeat this process until you mark and find the rest of the solves in the puzzle. All right, I feel like I'm overlooking something. It's actually probably a little easier as I'm doing all my talking. All right, what does the chat say? Row 1, column 2 is resolved. Yeah, with that 5. Boom, that's a 6. And that's a 5. 5 there, 6 there. Okay, and then with these 6s, impact row, column, block, that's got to be a 6 right there. All righty, and then with these 5s, you can put the 5s here. Okay, and what do you have here? It looks like 2, 7, 9. Well, the 9 coming down. There's your 9. That's got to be a 2, 7. Naked pairs act as pointing pairs. So what you know is this has to be a 2, 4, which means that's got to be a 3, right? Okay, and then you can go move on now. Displace the 3. Hunt down those marks. That's step 5. Solve that for 3. And continue to hunt the marks here. All right, with this 9 and this 9. Solve for a 9 there. Looks like you got a 1, 8 here. I usually remove the corner marks just to reduce some of the clutter, but what it tells me now at those 8s and this 8, that's your 8, that's going to be your 5. And you can see here now you got restriction in column 6, so that's a 2, 7 right there. Nice. This is going to be a 2 or 6, and I'm just kind of scanning down the columns as I make the marks. This is going to basically make a full house here. You might have just seen that those 7s are now restricted to that cell. So you can remove the 7 from right there. And what else is the impact? You got a 1, 2, and a 6 here. 1, 2, 6. I mean, you know this is a naked triple. I don't really need to mark that. But you can continue on with more solves here. All right, the 2, 7, 4, 6, 8, 9. Basically, you need a 1, 3, 8. Where does the 3 go in column 2? It's got to be right there. All right, so you can mark that. You can mark this as a 1, 8. Okay, add more restrictions with these 3s and this 3. 3s go right there. And so it kind of just clues you in where the next solve is going to be. Where else can we go? 2, 3, 5. With that 3, that's a 2, 5. Got the 3s there. Okay, so I'm kind of just looking for what I call like a heavy house to get that next solve in. All right. 1, 8, 1, 4, 7, 8. That's not much help. How about here? How about this 5? Tell me that's a 3. and that's a 7. That's going to be your 5. Awesome. 2, 7 right there. 2 right there. There's your 5. There's your 3 right there. All righty. 2, 6. Looking good. Looks like this has got to be a 6 or an 8. Pull the 6 over. There's your 6. There's your 8. Follow these 6s. Here's your 6. Remember, this was a 1, 2, 6, so that's got to be a 6. And with the 2, that's going to resolve. There's your 2. There's your 1. With these 1s now, you can do a 1 right there. I don't see a 3. So you see a mark, and that digit's not in there, and it's only in one of the cells. You know you can solve that right away. All right. And so now, continue on here. What do we got here in column 8? Looks like you just need a 2 and a 4. So of interest, 2, 4, 2, 4. You know that can't be a 4 anymore. So that's got to be your 4 right there. 2, 4, 2, 4. Looking good. 7, 2 right there. This is going to be a, looks like a 5. I don't see a 5 in block 4. That's got to be your 8. 1, 8 there. Nice. Don't see the 1, so that's got to be the 1. I see a 7 there, and then with these 7s, follow 7 there. Last digit is an 8. Okay. All right, so that is it for Puzzle 3, Devilry by Sam Kappelman Lines. Love that one, the XY wing in the corners. Again, I'm ready for Puzzle 4 if you want to pop it up. And while I do that, I want to congratulate everyone who solved the October 2025 puzzle pack. I call it Rocktober, Rock's Best Rock Trios. Pietato made the puzzles for that, so big shout out and thank you to Pietato. It featured locked and naked triple strategies. That's why we did Rock Trios. And all the people who solved it, Johan Beck, Jerry Byrne, Jen Starr, Korsten Dieterich, Paul Monet, David J. Byler, EKW555, Douglas Lardo, Greg T., Aaron Wells, Carol Emmerich, Mike Mott, Nick Walter, Yoshi Baroshi, if you know Yoshi, he's a member and he solves a lot of the packs. Grant Openhuis, or Openheis, Gary Kovitt, Johan Kraus, Larry Scalf, Randy Reese, Fred 5784, Eric Mullins, Gray Mike 50, and Mari. I love this. You hear some of those names. I got people all around the world solving these packs. I love that we can be connected with Sudoku here. Okay, the next puzzle, as I check on the chat here, is this is another puzzle from the Sudoku Cult Gospel. This is called A Double the Left Field by Philip Newman. So I got to meet Philip in person at SudokuCon 2025 in Boston. It was pretty awesome. You know, we'd seen each other. We had chatted a lot on the Discord. He actually helped me learn how to set puzzles. After that, I said, Philip, show me how to set puzzles. Show me how to set classics. I was able to set my own classic back in August. I released it on my birthday. It was kind of fun. And thank you for the mentoring, Philip. So I feel like, you know, it helped me understand how puzzles are made. And I look forward to making more of them. And I look forward to seeing you again. This one should be pretty tricky. Again, it's also in Chapter 1, Learning to Fly. I'm going to use this. I'm going to solve this class using that 5-step method again. And let's see how Philip sets this one up. Okay, so step 1, look for digit restrictions 1 to 9. There's the 1s. Don't see anything else with the 1s. Go on to the 2s. Not seeing any restrictions with the 2s. 3s. 2 places for a 3 in block 9. And that's it with the 3s. The 4s. All right, you notice the 4s are restricted to 2 spots here in block 3. Something else, I call this double scanning. See how the 4 comes up, the column and the row. Well, what other digit is with the 4? The 6. 4 and a 6, 4 and a 6. So, I mean, I could wait till I got to the 6s, or you could just see this right away and go, boom, 4, 6 hidden pair. If you do the double scanning and just kind of like go back and see if there's another digit that has the same restriction, it'll save you a little bit of time there. All right, what else with the 4s? You might notice, okay, 3 spots there. Can't do anything else. The 4's there. All right, move on to the, making sure. Yep. All right, move on to the 5s. And actually, the 4 and the 5 do the same thing right here. I almost missed that with the 4s. Another hidden pair, 4 and a 5. And then the 5 and the 6 come down here. 5 and 6 go there. Look at this, double scanning. So, I mean, if you've solved some of the tattooing puzzles, you know Philip loves his hidden pairs. You can tell this is setting something up. In fact, it sets something up right now that you might see. So the question is, do I just go for that advanced strategy, or do I continue with the marking? Let's do the marking, because I want to make sure I evaluate all the restrictions, but you can probably see there's another XY wing going on right there. All right, but I don't want to skip through what I've been teaching you guys. These 5s, pointing pair of 5s there, 5s go right there. Anything else with the 5s? Okay, how about the 6s? You can actually make a solve with the 6 there. So getting easy solves out of the way will pay some dividends. We did the 4-6 here. We did the 5-6 there. Lots of places for 6s there. I can do 6s in column 4 there on block 2. All right, how about the 7s? 2 places for a 7 right here in block 9. And 3 places there. Okay, no other marks, the 7s. 8s right there. 2 places for an 8 right here. And block 3. And then I don't see anything else with the 8s. How about the 9s? All right, 3 spots for a 9 there, not marking. 2 spots for a 9 here in block 6. Anything else with the 9s? Also keep in mind that those hidden pairs block out candidates from those cells. Okay, so did 1, did 2. You go back through if you made any solves. I solved just the 6. So, I mean, you can look and see if there's something else cutting through that might make another like pointing pair. There really isn't. Yeah. So now we're going to go to step 3, pairs and triples. If you find something like this, you got to take advantage of it. So, like I said before, you got all 3 pair possibilities of 4, 5, and 6. This pivot sees these 2 cells. It's an XY wing. If that's a 4, that's a 6. That's a 5. That's a 6. So a 6 can't be in this cell right here. So what can it be? It can't be a 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. It can't be a 6 now, and it can't be a 7 or an 8. So this has to be a naked single 9. Nice. Very, very nice. And so you saw that for a 9. And you notice now, maybe you're screaming at me about this. This is also an XY wing. 4, 5, 6. Look at that. So double left field. How about 2 XY wings? You know that 6 has got to be in one of these cells, right? Say 3 pair possibilities. This can't be a 6. What can it be? Can't be a 1, 2. Could be a 3, 4, 5. Can't be a 6. Can't be a 7, 8, or 9. That's got to be a 3. I think with these nice hidden pairs that Philip set up, this double XY wing to get these solves knocked out. Are we going to get a reward for figuring that out? Oh, I hope so. All right, but you got to do your due diligence with these 3s right there. This is beautiful stuff, by the way, and this is like one reason I'm hooked on handmade classics. You know, Philip saw this, put it in the puzzle, wants you to find it, just like the other great setters. Computer generating puzzles is not going to appreciate the beauty of something like that, but you will. What's here now? It looks like 1, 6, 7. Okay, so 6, 7 there, 1, 7 there, and 1, 6 there, just to fill that out. And now let's take advantage of some of these marks, some of these solves you got. So for example, we know that we've done some stuff with the 9s. What does that do? It gives you 9s right here. And we've done stuff with the 3s. And then you want to look and go, okay, what'd you give us here with these 9s and 3s? or for 1, 4, oops, and 4, pointing pair of 4s. 4's right there. All right. And for also, so what can be here? Looks like that can only be a 1 or a 2, right? Because it can't be a 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. And it can't be a 1 because that's a 1. So that's got to be a 2. Right? 1, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, and 9. So you get that, and that's going to give you a nice pointing pair of 2s here. Cuts across here, and so now you have, looks like 2s and 5s. Whenever you see that situation, you know you found a hidden pair, 2 and 5 in the same 2 cells. So you create more restriction right there. It gives you a nice lock triple here in block 3. So it's a naked triple of a 1, 1, 8, 9 in the row and the block. And since you got the 1 and 9 right there, that's got to be your 8. This is going to be the 1, 9. You can remove that mark. Okay. And so then with these 8s and this 8, you're kind of now in the phase 5, hunting down the marks and also creating more restrictions. Put the 1, 8, 9 here, 4, 5, 6 there, 2, 3, 7 is what these 3 cells can be. And that can't be a 3. It could be a 2, 3, or a 7. But what else do you see? All right, this one and the 1s from that. Naked pairs act as pointing pairs. Restricts the 1s there as a pointing pair. Any other restriction? You got 1, 2, 3, 7. That 3. 3s go here, is what I'm seeing. Okay. And then you can move on, see if you can find some more restrictions here. All right. 4, 5, 6, 7. Okay, 6, 4. Looks like that's a 5, 6. 4, 5, 7. Feel like you got something here. All right, so keep on talking as we find through that and look for more restrictions in the block. What do you got here? What's the reward? Okay, so we got 1, 2, 3, 5, 6. So 4, 7, 8, 9 here. 8, 9. Yeah, I mean, that's a 4, 7. That's not real too helpful. Okay. And with the 2, 5 there, 4, 6, 8, you have, it looks like, so mark that as a naked pair. So you have, looks like 4, 1, 3, 7, 9. So the 1, 9, that's a 3, 7. And a 1, that's 3, 7, 9. That's not terribly helpful there. Okay. And 1, 4, 5, 6. So 5, 6 here makes that a 1, 4. These 2 means that can't be a 2. Sorry, I marked that the wrong way. And a 1, 4, 5. Okay. All right. 2s, 2s. Do that. We made great momentum here. So I just want to continue on with the solving and look at what's the next step. Is it going to be another, like it's not another advanced strategy that I see. I think I'm just missing something that's actually pretty obvious here. All right, how about we go through digit restrictions then again? 1s, 2s. Gonna be right there now. Okay. Okay. And threes. Yep. 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 Fours. Four can be in these spots. Fours can be there. They can be there. Okay. Pointing pair of fours there. All right. Fives. Yep. Okay. Three spots there. Two spots there. Two spots there. Sixes. See what I'm doing with the sixes. Alrighty. And the sevens. Two spots there. Spots there. Okay. Eights. 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 Three spots for an eight there. And a nine there. And then the nines. 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 Those have got to be nines. What I noticed. All right. And so let's check this out. Row 4, column 7. And row 7, column 4. What can this cell be? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 9. That's got to be a naked single. 8. Thank you. Good catch. Okay. Puts the 8s right there. Very nice. And then someone says right here too. Can't be a 1, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, or 9. It's a naked single too. Sure enough. Okay, and with those 2s, there's 2 displacing that 9. All right, and then with these 9s, you know this can't be a 9. That's got to be your 9 right there. Displacing this 9. Okay, now we're back to hunting down marks. Nice job. Thanks for the help. Thanks for the tips. Displace. Remove that as an 8. And now you've made more restrictions in the puzzle. So we continue on here. This is now got to be 4, 7, 8 right there. That's 7, 5, 6, 7, 8, 6, 7. That's going to be a 5, 8. So it'd be worth looking at, again, more individual cell restrictions as we move forward. All right. We've added to this column here 2, 4, 5, 6, 9, 1, 3, 7, 8. That's got to be a 1, 7. That's just going to be a 1, 3, 7, 8. But it can't be a 1 because of pointing pair of 1s. Okay. That's 3, 7, 8. All right. What else we got? I just kind of go to the heavy houses, right? 1, 3, 5, 8 there. So 5, 8, 1, 3. Okay. And what? 1, 3, 8 there. That's 1, 3, 5. All right. Okay. And then look. Looks like 1, 3, 6, 7. So 1, 3, 6 and 1, 6, 7. Not helpful. All right. What's another heavy house here? Yeah, 1, 2, 4, 6, 9. That's 2, 4, 9. That's 2, 4. Look at that. Nope. All right. How about what's across here? That's not going to be helpful. All right. About row 8. 1, 3, 4, 7, 8. 1, 3, can't be a 4 because of the pointing pair of 4s or the claiming pair. 1, 3, yep, I knew that was a 4. 7, 8 with the 4s. 1, 3, 1, 3, 1, 3, 4, 5, 7. What the heck? Okay. I have a feeling I've been missing this for a long time, huh? 4 and 6. So 7. So I had that mismark. And it doesn't only allow to solve though, right? 1, 2, 3, 4. So 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Okay. All right. The 2 in box 2 can be used more. Maybe you can disambiguate the 5, 2 right there, huh? Awesome stuff. And there's the 4. There's a 6. There's a 4. Again, thanks for the tips in the chat there. 5, 7 there. We know that's going to be 6. That's got to be a 3 because it can't be the 5, 7. And we can get rid of the 3 there. Kind of declutter some of this grid. That can't be a 7 either. That's got to be a 9. All right, how about this? 1, 9 there. How about 7 goes right here? Got the 4 there. And now continue on with some more solving. What do we got? Got the 9, so that's got to be a 2, 4. Got the 6, so that's got to be a 1. There's 4. There's your 5. There's your 6. There's your 5. Nice. 8, 7, and the 8 right there. 1, 3, 8. We'll get back to that. Displace that 8. Solve this cell 4 and 8 now. Okay. And move on with some more good solving. Okay, with this one, this can't be a 6 anymore. So there's your 6. And then you got a 1, 3, 7 across. So that's a 1, 7. We knew that. 1, 3, 7 this way. Okay. These 3s means that's a hidden single 3. Displace that 3. Solve for a 3 here. Displace that 1. Resolve the 7, 3, 1 right there. Allows you to put a 1 right here. Got the 8 there, so that's got to be the 3. That's got to be your 5. Disambiguate the 7, 5 right there. And with this 7, all right, trying to be too cute here. With this 4, there's your 5. You can see here with these 6s, displace that 6. There's your 6, there's your 1, these 1s, solve that for a 1. Full house across row 4. It's going to be a 7 right there. There's your 7, there's your 2 to finish block 1. And here you got a 2, disambiguate the 4, 2 there. Okay, got a 7 across row 6. 2 digits remain. I don't see a 3. I don't see a 4. Pull the 3 down. There's your 3. Last digit is a 4. All right, thanks for the help on that. Found the intended strategy. Just needed some help with the cleanup. Do appreciate it. All right, we can move on to the next puzzle. And as I do that, I do want to let you guys know I actually donated a portion of my proceeds to Agape International Missions. AIM helps fight human trafficking. Crazy just to have a YouTube channel that gives a charity, but it's worked out. Actually raised $402 last month to stop human trafficking. It brings a yearly total to $3,027. So thank you so much for those of you who support. I realize it's going to a great place there. You can find out more on aimfree.org as we move on to puzzle 5. Okay, puzzle 5. I have enjoyed putting these puzzles together. So this is a variant, and I don't really feature variants on my channel very often. In fact, you're only going to see one on the normal channel and a few videos where I did bonus videos with it, but I thought this would be of interest. I like what they do in the Sudoku Grand Prix when they add basically one additional rule set on top of classics. It helps you think through things a little differently, come up with new solving methods and ideas. And like I said, with Ashish, Akash Dulani did this puzzle. He gave me the book, Sudoku Exotic. I've been working through it. This is one of the puzzle sets, rule sets I really, really liked. And again, once you figure out how the rule set works, then you can kind of take advantage of it. And I thought it was just kind of interesting. So here's the rules. Place digit 1 to 9 in the empty cell, so each digit appears exactly once in each row, column, and 3x3 box. An even digit placed in a cell with a circle indicates the number of even digits placed in the surrounding 8 cells. Okay, a good example would be right here. So if I put a 2 here, what it means is these cells have to contain 2 even digits. So you would know both of these would be even digits. An odd digit placed in a cell with a circle indicates the number of odd digits placed in the surrounding 8 cells. So if this is a 3 in the corner, awesome. These would be odd. Both of these would have to be odd. So they could be like this could be a 1 and that could be a 9, for example. If this is a 1, and we'll get conflict checker off, then you know that this is the only thing that could be odd, and these 2 cells would have to be even. So in the corners, it's a little easier because you have less cells to deal with. You'll notice here, you got to figure out what's going to be in all 8 of these, right? So that's digits placed in cells without a circle may have either of these properties, right? So if you're here at a 5, it's not in a circle, you have any number of odds and evens around it. This is a nice rule set, odd even count, Sudoku number 2 by Akash. Click for the puzzle link. Should be something in the description there for you in the chat. And with that, it's solving time. So I think the key here is you do want to work around the corners like I mentioned because it's just going to be easier to solve these corner ones as there's less restrictions. And one thing you'll notice, if it's a corner cell here, it has to be a 1, 2, or a 3, right? Because there's only 3 cells around it. And since there's a 5 there, it could be in any one of those. It could be a 1, 2, or 3. It could be 3 odds. It could be 2 evens, and those are both even, or it could be 1 odd, and those are both evens. And so what's neat is the 1 and 2 basically mean the same thing. You're going to have 2 evens around it and 1 odd. Other thing of note, if it's on the line here, on the border, in the block, in the middle cell, this can only be a 1, 2, or a 3. You might be like, oh, it could be a 4 or 5, right? No, because if this was a 4, it can't be because of there, but if it's a 4 even, you'd have to put 4 even cells around it, and you can't do that. You can only have 4 evens in a block. If this was a 5, it'd be the same problem. If you put a 5 there, you have to have 5 odds around it, and there's only 5 odds in the block, including the 1 in the cell. So it can never be a 4 or 5 in this situation. So what you know, since you have a 2 here, that's got to be a 1 or a 3. And since the 2's there, that's also got to be a 1 or a 3. Hopefully that makes sense. Okay, go down here. So try to go for these corner ones, or these ones that are completely in the block on the edge rows and edge columns. So that's got to be a 1 or 2 or 3. With this 1, I think you're going to get some love here. This has to be a 2 or a 3. And so able to make some marks there. All right, now that you do that, you could also do normal Sudoku rules and look through that to see if there's some other restrictions you can place. Like with these 1s, this has to be a 1 now, right, by normal Sudoku. And so then that's going to remove that, and that's going to be a 2 or a 3. And so if this was a 2, that's possible, or this is a 3. The other thing I'm going to do is you got that odd even parity going on, and so if I'm trying to, it helps to know if a cell could only be odd or only be even to help with this counting. And so I will use colors. I usually use yellow for odd because there's an O in odd, there's an O in yellow, and then blue for for even. So as we go along and I can figure out that something's going to be just odd or just even, we can make those marks as well. Okay, this one cannot be a 3 because you have an even right there, right? So it's going to be a 1 or 2, which means that you're going to have 2 evens and you're going to have 1 odd in these 3 cells. And so kind of use that to our advantage here as we work through the puzzle. Okay, other things to note. I'm just going to look and see if there's some normal Sudoku type restrictions I can place. If this is a 1, all 4 of these would have to, well, there'd be 1 odd, and all these would have to be even. And so you look and go, is that possible? If this was a 1, that would be your odd cell, right? And I can just color this yellow since these are 1s or 3s. And so then it would say you need a 2, 4, 6, 8 here. And so you look and go, well, that could be a 4, this could be an 8, and that could be a 4 or 6. So it is possible. We cannot rule that out from that cell. But I think we can rule it out from this cell, right? And reason being, if this was a 1, then you have to have all 4 evens in these 4 cells. But you notice there's 2 6s here, so a 6 can't be in any of these cells. So one of those additionally has to be odd. The 6 can't be there, the 6 has to be here. So this cannot be a 1. This has to be a 3, and that's got to be a 1. Hopefully that makes sense. All right, and that's going to help us out here to get us started with the puzzle. Okay, now this is a 1, that's your 3. You know these now have to all be evens. And so I can make that blue. Since the 8 cuts across here, you need a 4, 6, and 8. That's going to be the 8. The 6 and the 4 have to be up here, so that has to be your 6. That's going to be your 4. And I'll get rid of the colors as we go. As you notice, when I get too much clutter, I tend to miss things. And so now you got, 1, 2, 3, 4, 6, 8. You got 5, 7, 9 here, and they're all going to be odd. And so now you put restriction across row 3 here. So this is nice. Nice start. Okay, what else can you do? Let's continue on with what we got solved. So 4, 4, this 4, 4's here. So then you ask your question, could this be a 4? It could be a 4 because you could just add 2 more evens in these cells for now. And remember, this isn't completely in block 7. It does border block 8. So it is possible for this to be a 4 on row 9. All right. 5, 7, 9, 9. So you can make a solve here. This can't be a 9 because you can't have 9. A 9 can never be in a circle cell. An 8's the highest because you only have 8 surrounding cells. So this has to be your 9 right there. Okay, so once you solve that, now you can kind of look and go, what can this be, right? It can be a 1, 2, or 3. Well, it can't be a 1, so it's got to be a 2 or 3. Well, this is a 3. And it can't be a 4 or a 5, right? So this has to be your 2. And then that's a 3 in the corner. Bum, bum, bum. All right, you got 1, 3, 5, 9, so that's going to be a 7. And with the 3, now you got the 2 here and the 3 right there. Nice. And so now you can start seeing what the restrictions are here. 1, 2, 3, 4, 6, 8, 9. So that's 5, 7. Well, with the 5 right here, here's your 5, here's 7. Okay? And now you can look and go, what can this cell be? If it was a 1, then it'd be 1 odd, and that's not possible with all these odds. So it can't be a 1. So you already know 1's got to be in one of these cells. Can't be a 2. Can't be a 3. If it was a 4, 1, 2, 3. If this was even, that could be a 4. 5. It can't be a 6, 7, 8, or 9. It has to be a 4. So that has to be a 4. You have 3 evens here. You have 1, 2, 3, 4 odds. This cell now has to be even. And since you have a 2, 4, 8 there, it's got to be a 6. which now puts you here with a 1 and 3. With this 3, there's your 3, there's your 1. And now you can finish row 2 with a 6. So now the thing I think about with variants is that people put the variant rule sets in there to force restrictions you have to consider. And so you just got to, I always start looking at the restriction from the rule set first and then back into normal Sudoku rules after that. All right, 1, 4, 8. Here with these ones, this is going to be your 1, and that's going to be 4, 8. I don't need to keep those marked with the colors anymore because we already got that 3 figured out. Okay, what other cells we need to figure out? You want to move down and see what we can do here. So with these ones, use some normal Sudoku. That's got to be a 1, and it's going to force a 1 right here. Now, if that's a 1, you have 1 odd and 1 even here. And so if you look, you don't know which one's the odd, which one's the even just yet. In the more advanced version of this rule set, you'll be counting across whole houses, rows, columns, and blocks to figure out how many odds, how many evens you can put in there. And so, like, it would be an advantage to keep that. And notice you got 1, 2, 3 odds. You have 2 evens, so you know that you need 2 more odds and 2 more evens in those cells, for example. Okay, what else can we do with these 6s? 6s there. Rule set, I tend to not go into the center rule set ones because, again, they're going to be the harder ones to figure out until you got some more marks in there. But this one's of interest because you're saying you have 4 evens, and so 1 odd, that has to be the odd. All these have to be even cells. So we can mark those blue, and then you go, okay, what do they have to be? Well, this is 2 and a 4. Those have to be a 6 or an 8. And so you can mark that as evens. And then you can notice, that's a 4, that's a 2. So that's going to be 6 or an 8. And so now you got 1, 2, 3, 4 even cells figured out. This has to be your 4 now. And that's going to be the 8. And so now you can do 6 and 8 right here. And that's going to be a 6. And with the 6, 8, this has to be even. That's going to be a 2, 4. And then you can finish up column 9 there with a 5. All right. And that makes sense with the 2. You got these 2 evens, 3 odds. Yep, rule set matches. Okay, this 5. 5's got to be there. All right, looking good. Checking the chat. See, people are looking at ways to take advantage of the rule set or create new puzzles with it. Awesome. This has to be, looks like a 2, 4, and it's going to be even. So of interest, you can even, this is going to be odd or an even right there. 1 odd, 1 even. One's going to be a 5, and one's going to be an 8. So you can mark that as a 5, 8. Right here, 1, 2, 3, 4, 7, 9. The 4s. And can't make many more solves there. I'll just mark it. And that's going to be an odd. So this kind of helps me visualize across the way here and make the colors with the odds. Okay, probably worth focusing on this cell right now, right? It can only be a 1, 2, 3, 4, or 5. You have a 1 and a 3 and a 5. So this has to be a 2 or a 4. So then kind of look, can you rule out either the 2 or the 4? If it's a 2, these would be 2s. Well, if this is the 2, you're going to see there's a problem right away. These would be the 2 evens, and this would be a 4 and create 3. So it can't be. This can't be a 2. It's too restrictive. So this has to be your 4. Which allows you to solve this cell now for a 4. And there you go, 7, 9. Another odd. All right, 4, 6, 2 evens. 1, 2, 3, 4 odds. And so now you got 2 more evens and 1 more odd in row 9. You also know that one of these has to be an odd. And what you can do is look and see, is there a cell that you can get rid of all the odds? If that's the case, then or there's a cell that could only be odd, then you'd be set. So for example, this cell right here, 6, 8, can't be the 4, can't be the 2. This has to be odd. So that has to be the only odd one. I don't know what has happened here. Somehow it reverted back. To a lot earlier in the puzzle. Yeah, okay. Not sure what happened there. Alrighty, I guess we can come back and make more progress here. That's a little weird. All right, no worries. See if we remember what was going on. This has to be, I remember doing all this as evens. And then this could be a 4, that's going to be the 8, that's going to be the 6, that's going to be the 8. And yeah, let me see here. All right, it's going to be a 2, 4 there. All right, and then let's get back here. I've just got to remember why it reverted so far back. All right. Yeah. Okay. I'll just try to catch back up here on this. All right. Yeah, that's weird. I mean, what I remember is that I figured that out was a 4 kind of ahead of time. And we figured out that we had 6, 8, 4. We know that's going to be the 2 and the 3. I'm kind of redo the solve here a little bit, folks. There's your 6. There's your 3 in the corner. All right, there's your 1s. These both have to be odd, so I'll yellow those guys up. And so you got 9, 3, 5, 1. This has to be the 7 if it's odd. And then that's going to be 3, 5, 7, 1. This has got to be your 9. Nice. And then this is going to be your, should be a 5 right there. Yep. Because I remember this being 4, 7, 9. That's going to be the 4 there. Oh, thanks. Okay. Yep. Getting pretty close. Cool. All righty. Okay. So what we figured out here, that 3, 1, 3, 4, 5. This has got to be a 2. And this is going to be, looks like right there. You got 5 and a 7. That 5. There's 5. There's a 7. Looking good. Looking good. Okay. And then with these 4s, this has to be a 4. So you got 1, 2, 3. That's odd. So this has to be even. So that's got to be your 6. And gives you a 1 and 3 here with this 3. There's 3. There's your 1. There's a 1. There's going to be the 6 right there. Looking nice. This has to be a 2, 4. And it's going to be even. So I'll get rid of these odds colors. Put the even color back there. And you got 1 odd, 1 even. That was a 5, 8. Looking good. Okay. Continue on with the solves. With these 1s. With these 1s here. Yep. I remember that was a 1. That's going to be the 1 there. And so you have an even and an odd here. I haven't figured that one out yet. But we did figure out with this 4 that has to be odd. because of the 2, 4, 6, 8 right there. So these are both going to be even cells. So this has to be your 8 since you have a 2, 4, 6 in the column, and 2, 4, 6 here means this also has to be an 8. All right. And move on here. What's remaining in row 9? Looks like you got 2, 7, 9, 7, 9 right there. So that's 2, and that's going to be the 7, 9. And what's remaining? 3 there. Makes that a 7, 9. And so you know, you got 2, 4, 6, 8. You know this has to be odd. Or if you look at the 1 and you see 2 evens there, that's got to be odd. You know, that's got to be odd. So you have 4 odds figured out, 2 evens figured out. And so that's going to kind of help with a little bit of that part. These 2 cells, again, always interesting looking at the rule set restriction, and that cell is one of them. 1, 2, 3, 5, 6, 7, 9, need 4. Looks like a 4 and an 8. And you're going to be able to figure this one out pretty quick, because if this was an 8, all these would have to be even. But since you have at least 2 odds, at least 1 odd, you know that's got to be the 4 and that's got to be the 8. And then you can disambiguate the 2, 4 right there. I'll get rid of those colors. Okay, so now that's a 4. You know, those are 2 evens, so you have 2 more evens in those 4 cells right there. And so you know, if you're getting stuck, you want to look and see if there's more restriction you can place in those cells. But as it is, we have quite a bit of like normal Sudoku, I think, still to work through. All right, for example, this is a lock triple. So you have a 1, 3, 4, 7, 8, 9, you have 2, 5, 6. These 6s, that's a 6, and that's going to be a 2, 5. Okay, and then you got another lock triple right here, 3, 7, 9. So they're all going to be bi-value cells, BVCs I call them. So that's the 3. The key thing to note is that all of these are going to be odds. And so you're going to be able to resolve this 4. You're going to be able to resolve a cell here pretty quick. Because what you know is these 2 are odds. These 2 are evens. This is even. This has to be even. This is the only, it's got to make the 4th even. So that's got to be the 2. That's got to be the 5. All right. And then look across here. Looks like you need a 2, 7, 9. Got the 2 there. So there's 2. There's 7, 9. That's going to be odd. And so it'll help you figure out what's going to be in this cell right here, knowing that you got these odds around it. So you got 1, 2, 3, at least 4 odds. So what could the cell be? Can't be a 1, 2, 3, or 4. It looks like it could either be a 5 or 7, but you know it can't be a 7 because you have 3 evens. So it can't have 7 odds around it. So that's got to be your 5. And then that's going to tell you 1, 2, 3, 4. This also has to be odd. And so it's going to be a 7 or a 9 since you already have a 1, 3, 5 in the row. And so by doing that, you know then this has to be a 5. All right, and that puts you at 7, 9, and you don't see a 3 here. So there's your 3. There's your 7, 9, 3 right there. 7 and a 9 right there. And now you can do the 7, 9 here. And you see starting to fall into place here. Go back to the normal Sudoku. Full house, so you know that's got to be a 2. And then you know this has got to be, looks like 3 or 7. Well, with the 3 there. There's your 3. There's your 7. Disambiguate the 9, 7 right here. And you got a 9 right there. Alrighty. Looks like you got a 5, 8 and a 5, 8. So look at this cell to resolve it, right? You got 1, 2, 3 odds. This can't be odds. That's got to be an even. So that's 8. That's a 5. That's 5. Last digit is an 8. Nice. All right. I saw some people already solved it before me. Cool, cool, cool. Okay, I think I got a little bit of time left. I have one more puzzle to do to fill the time. It'll be another classic. Let me see if there's anything else I want to say here. Yeah, well, one, I went to SudokuCon 2025. I had a blast. I love meeting everybody there. I plan to be at SudokuCon 2026 in Manchester. You can, I think if you do the exclamation point in news, you can sign up for the SudokuCon newsletter, get up to date information. Also, look for links to sign up or to be notified when you can sign up for tickets there. So, this last puzzle is going to be a Pocket Sudoku Volume 32, Puzzle 88. All right, so I might be committing to sin here. It is not a handmade classic. I do look at puzzle books to get some practice solving in, and I thought this puzzle was of interest. And you can learn some nice techniques from there. Handmades are still the best, of course. Another big shout out to SudokuCon team. You guys have been awesome. Thanks for helping me with the live stream. So I'll finish up this puzzle and I'll be done with my portion of the stream. All right, so let's do that 5-step method. Got the ones there. Ones in block 3. Another spots with the ones. Look at the 2s. And you'll notice you can solve for 2 here in block 3. Restricts the 2s in block 1. All right, nothing else with the 2s. Go to the 3s. And don't see any solves or marks I can make with the 3s. How about the 4s? All right. Nothing I can see with the 4s. How about the 5s? 5s are restricted in one of those 3 spots, not marking that. 5s are restricted here. And I'll do a quick double scan check to see if something else is with the 5 that I could make a hidden pair with, but I can't. 5, 5, nothing there. All right, how about the 6s? 2 places for a 6 in block 3. That's it for the 6s. How about the 7s? Can solve for a 7 in block 4. 2 spots there. Got a pointing pair of 7s. 7 here, 7 there. Here in block 9. So 7s go right there. Nice. 8s. All right. If I had used a double scan, you would notice, there you go, you got a 1-8 hidden pair right there. This is worth exploring because you create quite a bit of restriction in the puzzle. And now you can resolve that 5. So there's the 5, and that's going to be a 9 to finish block 2. These act as a pointing pair, so keep that in mind to go with this 8. Now you can solve that for an 8, displace that 2. All right. And so what you know now is with these 8s, you can solve for an 8 in block 4. 3 places for an 8 right there. Anything else with the 8s? Nope. 9s, you got a pointing pair of 9s, did I notice? 9s. But you can solve for a 9 too, right? Because you can see the 9 can only be in this spot in row 2. So instead of a pointing pair, just solve it. And it leaves a 3 to finish row 2. 3 spots here for 9, not marking that. Alrighty. And then we can look in step 1, of course, digit restrictions 1 through 9. Step 2, go back through if you made a few solves. See if there's any easy solves that you've missed. And so we did make a few solves. There's something else easy that we can mark here. 1s to mark here. 2s can make a solve. That's got to be a 2, displacing that 1. See how that works? And now with these 2s, impact row, column, block. 2s there. Impact on the 1s means you can solve for a 1 right there. And it restricts the 1s here in block 9. What else with the 2s? 2s here. And then that's it for the 2s. All right, you can see a nice locked triple going on here. So this is worth exploring as well. You can either go, hey, this is going to be a naked triple, locked triple, or you're going to have some kind of hidden pair going on there. Definitely worth filling out. 1, 2, 3, 5, 7, 8, 4, 6, and a 9. The 6 right there. This can't be a 6, but you know, 4, 6, 9 are in those three spots in the row and in the block, which now restricts these two cells to, it looks like, a 3 and a 5. But since you have a 3 right there, you can solve that for a 3, solve that for a 5. And remove the 5 mark right there. Nice. Impact, row, column, and block, solve that for a 5. So kind of just go back through and go, all right, now what's the impact of finding that solve? Once the log triple is of no use, you don't need to keep it highlighted. But we did create some more restriction here. All right. And particularly in those, you got the 5s and 7s over there. So these cells are a wee bit restricted. So you can kind of work into step 3 of looking for pairs and triples as we go. In particular, I'm noticing here column 1, 4, 6, 9. So that's got to be 9, 6 there. And with the 6 here, that's going to be a 4, 9. That's worth filling out. What about these cells? You got 3s here. 1, 2, 5, 7, 9. So 3, 4, 6, and an 8. 3, 4. So you know that's a 6 or an 8. And with the 8 and 3 here, you know that's going to be a 4 or 6. That's interesting. Okay. What about column 9? Now you're kind of switching here, looking at heavy houses. 2, 3, 4, 5, 9. You know, 1, 6, 7, 8. Well, with the 7 there, you know that can't be a 7. Well, that's a 1, 6, 8. That's a 6, 8. You got the 1, 8 here. So remember, this cannot be a 1 or an 8. So that's just going to be a 6 or 7. And with the 6, that's just a 1, 7, 8. Okay. Now, what other restrictions you have? You can look here in column 3. You got a 1, 5, 6, 7, 8. You need a 2, 3, 4, 9. So that's 3, 4, 9. That's 2, 3, 9. And 2, 3, 4, 9. Okay. Not seeing anything there. 1, 1. What about across this row? We're in step 3 here, right? Pairs and triples. 1, 4, 7, 8. 1, 7 means that's a 4, 8. Interesting. 1, 8 means this is a 4, 7. And this can't be a 7 because of the pointing pair 7. So that's a 1, 4, or an 8. All right. And then you might see that 3s are restricted here. Okay. 3, 4, 7, 9. I'm not going to mark it, but it's not going to, there's not additional restriction there. All right. These ones are restricted right there. Trying to find those marks. Ones are restricted here. So you know 5, 7 can't be there. 1, 2, 4, 5, 7. So there's something interesting here. What can this cell be, right? 1, 2, it could be a 3. It can't be a 4 or 5. It could be a 6 or a 9 right there. Two, 3. Okay, so what can this one be? Can't be the 2s, so it can be 3, 4, 6, 9. So you know, continuing to mark like that's not going to be super helpful. I don't need to put all those in there. This one can be, looks like 4, 5, 2, 4, 5, 6. So with the 5 and the 4, that's 2, 6. 5s are restricted there. Boom. So that's a 2, 4, 5. And that'd be a 4, 5, 6. All right. You got another heavy house here. And I'm doing this, I'm going to compare with other rows, columns, and blocks to see if we can find like a pair or something of interest to help do the solves. 2, 3, 6, 7. Well, 2 and a 7 mirror. That means that's a 3, 6. And I think we're going to find something. Yep. Because the 7 can't be here, it can't be here. You can solve for a 7, hidden single right there, right? A little trickier spot. Displace the 7, solve that for a 7. All right. And it leaves you with a 2, 3, 6 in this column. So you can find some that way. And now, kind of evaluate. Yeah, we got all the 7s marked. What's the impact on row, column, block of doing that? Look across here. You can see you got a 1, 4, 7, 8. So 2, 3, 5, 6, 9. I don't see. Okay, so this 5 was displaced. So that's 5, and that's going to be your 1. Nice. Now you can solve this cell for 1. Awesome. And now you got 4, 7, 8 there. 8 restricted to those 2 cells. How are we doing on the 1s? Okay, got the 1s marked. All right. 4, 6, 7, 8 here. This can't be 8. Can't be a 7. So that's a 4, 6. Nice. This is a 4, 6. So you have a nice naked pair right here. Take advantage of that. Create an even heavier house in column 7. So you got a 1, 2, 4, 5, 6, 7, 9. So you just need a 3 and an 8. So now these 2 cells are just 3 and an 8. Okay. And this is 3, 6, 8, 9. So the 9 and 6 have to be in these cells somewhere. It's also good to know that you remove the 6 from this cell right here. Okay. All right, so what does that mean? It means since a 6 has to be in one of these cells, a 6 can't be here. So what does that mean? 3, 4, and an 8 right there. And then you can see here, 3, 4, 6, 8. So I can see it as a naked quad. Maybe you see this as a hidden pair. Either way, you'll notice now that the 9 and the 1 are restricted to these 2 cells. You could have just looked at that and looked at this to go 1, 9. All right. And with 3, 6, now what you'd also know is this is actually a naked triple. The 4 is restricted to this cell. And then that has to be the 6. That's got to be the 4. And so that'll kind of help resolve some of this. All right. Since you displaced the 3, that's got to be the 3. That's got to be the 8. That's got to be the 6. There's your 2. Get rid of that 2. Get rid of that 6. Clean up some of this clutter. Okay, I know we're getting kind of near the end here, so I'll just finish up this solve. 3, 8, 3, 6, 9 there. And so now you're kind of going down to the hunt the marks portion of the solving with the 4 across the row. That's got to be a 9. There's 6. There's 4. Displacing that 6. Displacing that 9. And now you can see 9s are gone there. 9's gone there. And the 4, so that's got to be a 3. So 3, 9, and the 4, that's got to be a 7. There's your 4. There's your 8. There's your 7. There is your 6. Okay, finish up the block here with the 3. That's 2. That's a 4. Nice. You got your 3 and 9 there. Worth marking if you can't solve it right away. But this 6, that can't be a 6. And so what you have here is, looks like a 3. 3, 5, 9. All right, so I'll mark the 5s right there. 2, 6. That's 3. 9, 3. 3, 9 means that's a 6. That's your 3, that's your 9. All right, we got, looks like 5, 9 there. Still can't solve. We got, looks like a 4 and a 6 here with the 6. There's your 6, there's your 4, there's your 4, there's your 5. All righty. Across here, you got the 2 and the 8. So I'm going to pull the 2 down. There's 2. There's the 8. There's the 8. There's your 1. 1, 9, 5. Last digit is a 9. All righty. So there we go. Again, another big shout out to the SudokuCon team. Can't wait to see you guys there. I appreciate your feedback, your support. Thank you again, Tallcat, the rest of the SudokuCon folks who put this together, as well as the other great streamers who donated their time during the event.